Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes here to preview Vanderbilt's game with St. Mary's. That's going to happen at midnight Eastern on
Ooh,
Wednesday night. Yeah. If you are a basketball diehard, you will be staying up for this one. Either that or you live on the West Coast, perhaps. But in any case, it should be interesting. St. Mary's 21 in Ken Palm. It is favored by Ken Palm. We don't have a line on this, so we're going by computers we like. Ken Palm has got St. Mary's as a 7-point favorite. Let's check Mark Torvik while we're doing this. And, well, I'll tell you what, I'll find that. But as we pull this up, we cover SEC teams primarily. And so with that, we've watched a good bit of Vanderbilt, which has been a Jekyll and Hyde team so far. The Commodores lose their opener to Memphis, have an awful loss to Southern Miss, and then turn it around with a win at a pretty good Temple team, pretty decent Temple team, maybe an NIT type team. Temple had just beaten Villanova, and then comes home and clobbers Morehead State in a game that was never really a game. So seems like maybe Jerry Stackhouse has gotten some issues fixed since the first two games. Hard to tell, but certainly Vanderbilt looked a lot better the last two times out.
yes, they did, and that's I think all you can ask for after losing. I think a game like they lost to Southern Miss, and yeah, that win at Temple was significant because, as we had said, Temple just come off that win against Villanova. They've got to win over Rutgers. I mean, Temple about schedules, Chris. Temple's not played an easy slate thus far. Vanderbilt, Villanova, Rutgers, and St. John's 4 consecutive games here. But yeah, I think that certainly helped Vanderbilt's confidence a little bit. I think you started to see a little more pep in terms of what they could do. I think when you look at just let's point this out too, Chris. Jerry Stackhouse has been playing a lot of guys, and I think
Yes.
that's rotation there's a lot of guys playing right now, and I think he's one of those that we said going into a season, this is that portion of the conference non-conference schedule where you're really trying to figure out your rotations, who are you going to be able to count on in a lot of different situations and that kind of stuff. And he's definitely one that's trying to figure that out still. I think when you look at kind of the options he's gone to, I still think this is one where if Vanderbilt's going to have success against a St. Mary's team that let's call it what it is. This is a good team, and what to expect from Randy Bennett's teams. They are going to be very methodical in terms of how they play. They are going to try to make you work. I think that's probably a good way to put it. Their defense is going to be very efficient. Their offense is going to be very efficient. They're probably not going to beat themselves in terms of turning the ball over, and they're going to shoot it pretty well. So that's a lot of things you got to prepare for, I think, with the St. Mary's team. And so I think you look at it from that standpoint. Vanderbilt's going to have to play their best game of the season to have a chance, I think, to win this game.
Yeah, Vandy has been one of the more injury-prone teams in the country for 5 or 6 years running. Vandy was down Trey Thomas the other night. Colin Smith had been a little banged up. He's back. But, I mean, the big thing the game before was Vanderbilt's veterans had just disappeared offensively. And Vandy got a big game out of Jordan Wright. He got a huge game out of Liam Robbins. Ezra Manhone had been much better in that game. I mean, Vandy finally got some scoring and some three-point shooting more along the lines of what we thought. Now, we didn't think this was a tremendously gifted offensive team, but we also didn't think that Wright and Robbins would go in the deep freeze the first couple games. Miles Studi gives him 7 out of 10 from behind the arc. So this is the team that flashed a lot in its biggest game on the road a couple of weeks ago. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to be that team every night, but that team was fun to watch that night, and a team that was a little tricky to guard against Temple.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of something we talked about in a different team, obviously, but last season, right? We almost said it was almost as if Vanderbilt really played pretty well on the road last season, from what I remember, and I think that's kind of just lost games, of course, but I think that's just something that maybe that's just a part of Jerry Stackhouse's coaching, where he just finds a way to get his teams prepared for some of these games, and I think it's the upperclassmen, right? Like you said, I mean, just what you've gotten out of the guys like Jordan Wright and Liam Robbins and Mannion and those guys, like I think those are the guys that have to kind of carry them. Miles Studi obviously has made some certainly big shots, hit 7 threes in that game at Temple. Um, but I think it's a lot of those guys, that you just have to have that production from. And, you can certainly rely on some of these newcomers to come in and try to make an impact, but I think just getting that consistent production out of those guys at the top, the guys who have been there, and I think that's just a big part of this. And again, you look at this matchup in particular, um, it is one where I think St. Mary's is going to test them in a lot of different ways because, this is also a team that has some experience, certainly has some size. And I just think that, when you look at it, if Vanderbilt is going to have a chance to win this game, they need those kind of games from, that entire group that we talked about there. If you're talking about the group of Mannion, Wright, Studi, Robbins, Lawrence, all the upperclassmen, like all these guys have to be able to contribute. You can't really afford, I think, to have, one of those kind of flat type of games from one or multiple of those guys, because I just think you're not going to be in a position to win this game. I just think St. Mary's is, potentially too good of a team. And look at what they've done so far. I mean, they're 5-0. Beating North Texas, which, by the way, Chris, there's a stat for you. They beat North Texas 63-33. They held North
Ooh.
Texas to 33 points in a game. And I know it's North. You can say it's North Texas, right? But Ken Palm has North Texas at what 77. So
Yeah,
like
that's a good.
that's
That's
just
been a pretty good program for a couple years. It
it
feels
has. I
like.
mean, Grant McCaslin's done a good job there, as we know. We saw the run they made in the tournament and all that. But I mean, they are defensively, they've held their last four opponents to 54 points or less. And so I think that's where you're going to see maybe some of the challenges here for Vanderbilt.
Yeah, before we finish this one up, a quick word to our sponsor, Stakes. Predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs. With Stakes, players can submit their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and have the best predictions captured in the moment. Head to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Okay, Blake, I've not seen St. Mary's play this year. Obviously, Randy Bennett has just been so consistent. The West Coast Conference is a nice basketball league. St. Mary's is good every year. Again, small sample size for both these teams. Vanderbilt has been really erratic. St. Mary's, you just look, four guys averaging in double figures. This team shoots 44% from three. Hadn't shot free throws very well. That makes no sense. Is out rebounding teams by 15 a game, giving up 51.5 points a game. It just feels like St. Mary's is a little bit better on both ends of the floor. And again, if what Vandy was at Temple was what Vanderbilt is, then maybe we size this up a little differently. But I see what the computers are doing. And Bart Torvik has also got St. Mary's as a 7-point favorite. That feels about right.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dukas and Mahaney have hit a combined 33s thus far this season between those two guys. And I think that's what we talk about kind of with the 3-point shooting and just kind of knowing, what to expect here and the efficiency. They're 43.4% from three. That's ninth in the country thus far. I mean, that's just call it what it is, right? I mean, you just got a very efficient kind of group in terms of how they've made their threes. And like I said, I mean, if those shots aren't falling, which I think Vanderbilt defensively is not always a team that's easy to prepare for. So I think that could be something, and that's Jerry Stackhouse. They will be circling that as a game plan, trying to figure out how to stop this team in terms of the three. But St. Mary's, again, if you've watched Randy Bennett's teams before, very fundamentally sound type team. They're not going to beat themselves. They don't turn the ball over a lot. They're very efficient on both sides of the floor. I think that is probably something where for this Vanderbilt team that has been a little sporadic thus far. Like we've said, played better in the last two games. I just think this is kind of the type of matchup that feels like a tough one to win going out to Anaheim. And yeah, I would probably lean towards St. Mary's certainly to win this game because I just think they're probably the better team at this point based on kind of the chemistry and everything they have.
Thanks for watching Southeastern 14 presented by Stakes. We'll see you again soon.